A person who fails to conquer oneself will always live in fear and experience life filled with conflicts and emotional storms. Fearfulness prevents a person from perceiving reality and ever knowing oneself. Unable to cope with fear and uncertainty, a person resorts to denial, repression, compromise, and hides behind the mask of false self. The whole purpose of psychological defense mechanisms is to reduce negative or intense emotions, anxiety, or emotional discomfort during a traumatic experience. The psychological defense mechanisms are subconscious processes, and their main function is emotional and behavioral regulation. These mechanisms basically make a person more adjustable and adaptable in difficult social or life circumstances by stabilizing their psyche and emotional state. This is how it works. The subconscious part of our personality consists out of our instincts and desires that we suppress or banish from our consciousness. These instincts and desires are constantly seeking satisfaction and become a driving force for our pursuits and behavior. Our instincts, in their nature, are very egoistic and social, and existing social norms are the reins that make human coexistence possible. A personal mental and social development goes through the establishment of a balance between instincts and social norms. In the process of self-development, a person is forced to constantly seek a compromise between the energy of unconscious, rushing outward, and what is allowed by our society. This balance or compromise is established through defense mechanisms. A protective mechanism calls a specific change in the content of consciousness that occurs in situations of internal conflict. The defense mechanism aims to reduce the feeling of anxiety associated with the conflict. Psychological defense mechanisms are dysfunctional processes. You are probably wondering why they are dysfunctional if they help us balance our psyche. Psychological defense mechanisms are very contradictory. On the one hand, it contributes to the adaptation of a person to his own inner world, but at the same time, on the other hand, it could force a person's adaptation to the external social environment. Defense mechanisms are subconscious processes of interruption over contact with the outside world by distorting or rejecting reality. And because these processes are subconscious, they do not satisfy our needs, they do not eliminate conflicts, they do not reduce our fears. Instead, they reduce our development and they lead to different types of mental and physical disorders and illnesses. You can think of defense mechanisms as painkillers. They don't fix the problem, they just reduce or make the pain go away for a while. And with the time, you develop more and more symptoms and side effects. So you can take the painkillers, or you can see a doctor who can help you eliminate the actual problem. This is the whole purpose of therapy, is to realize your own psychological defense mechanisms that limit your freedom to self-expression, spontaneous reactions, and distort your reality and quality of interaction with the outside world. There are over 30 different types of defense mechanisms, but there are only a few main and the most common ones. For example, Gestalt therapy underlines 8 main defense mechanisms that describe how we interrupt the cycle of our experiences. The cycle of experience is the main concept in Gestalt therapy that describes how a person satisfies his own needs, starting from the point when the needs are formed and ending with their satisfaction and assimilation of that experience. The cycle of experience has 6 phases: sensation, awareness, mobilization, action, final contact, and satisfaction. The sensation phase is a phase of sensation and formation of a need. The phase of awareness is when a person realizes and becomes aware of a need. Mobilization is the phase of connecting to your emotions regarding that particular need. Action is the phase when a person starts to take actions towards satisfying the need. Final contact is the phase of experiencing the act of satisfaction. The phase of satisfaction is the phase when a person assimilates the experience and feels the emotions as a result of satisfying the need. In order to have a better understanding of the cycle, meet John. Today, John has been enthusiastically working and has been fully concentrated on this process. Suddenly, John started feeling discomfort and strange physical sensations in his body. Right now, John on the first phase of the cycle when he is feeling a sensation. When John started listening to his body, he realized that those unpleasant sensations were coming from his stomach that was playing a hungry orchestra and trying to remind him that he missed his breakfast and that it's time to get some lunch. This is the second phase that we call awareness, is when John realizes and became aware of his need. When John realized that he needs to satisfy his hunger, he started checking his options. Well, he could get a snack from a vending machine, but that wouldn't be satisfying enough. The cafeteria would be a good option, but it's closed, so John decided to order some sushi delivery. Right now, John is on the phase of mobilization. In this phase, John is searching for different ways to satisfy his hunger. In this phase, John could feel different emotions like sadness and disappointment because of the closed cafeteria, or excitement about the delivery option. Once John identified his lunch choice, he picked up the phone and ordered his favorite sushi rolls. This is the phase of actions, where John taken actions towards satisfaction. Once the rolls have arrived, John pleasantly consumed his favorite treat, and this is the phase of full contact. In this phase, John is experiencing the full contact with the desired object. He is satisfying his need, and his energy level at this stage is the highest. Precisely in this phase of full contact, the act of satisfaction occurs. After John has satisfied his need, assimilation takes place. During this process, John assimilates his experience. For example, in this case, John was very satisfied with his lunch and decided to save the delivery contact in his app for the future occasions. This example demonstrates a full and successful cycle of experience. But what if John wasn't satisfied with his experience? Let's take a different example with Joanne. Let's assume that Joanne is on her PMS, right? Joanne went through the same experience, but in the end she wasn't satisfied with her lunch. So she sits here grumpy and dissatisfied and trying to figure out what is missing. In this case, the cycle starts from the beginning. Joanne now is sensing that something is missing, maybe candy or maybe cookie. So Joanne starts wandering around the office, begging and stealing candies and cookies from her co-workers. I don't know about you ladies, but I do this shit all the time. Once Joanne has finally satisfied her needs, she assimilates her experience. She noticed that the turtles were very delicious, and she decided to get her a box of turtles on her way home. This cycle of experience will repeat itself until the needs are satisfied. What you see here with John and Joanne's example is the healthy cycle of experience. However, this cycle could be interrupted by different defense mechanisms depending on the phase of the cycle. The first defense mechanism is confluence, and it occurs on the first phase of the cycle, which is very beginning of the need formation. While a person still doesn't realize his need or desire, but feels unclear sensations that intended to direct person's attention towards the need. Confluence diffuses the boundaries between the individual and the environment and leaves the individual feeling like one and indistinguishable from the environment. Confluence people usually are unable to recognize boundaries, their own feelings, or tell what others are feeling, or differentiate their own feelings from others. They are simply not aware of boundaries, therefore they are unable to make good contact with them, nor can they withdraw from them. Confluence people work by the principle if there is no needs, then there are no problems with satisfying those needs. For example, a child who is growing up with parents who decide everything for him, how to dress, who to play with, what to eat, and attack every child's attempt for self-expression. In this case, the child tries to adapt to the situation by stopping having his own desires and needs and perceives his parents' desires for his own. This allows the child to avoid aggression and conflicts with his parents. In this case, the child grows up with an ability to determine his own feelings, needs, and desires, and builds his life around people who tell him what to do and what to feel. Usually, this type of people are highly dissatisfied with their life. Introjection is the next defense mechanism that takes place at the end of the sensation phase. Introjection is the process where a person perceives other people's ideas, worldviews, values, and guidelines as his own without questioning or any critical comprehensions. A person basically follows someone else's ideas and rules without chewing. Introjection leads to replacing your own desires with someone else's. For example, a wife could deny her anger with her husband because a good wife not supposed to get angry. Introjection is always rules and guidelines. Boys not supposed to cry. strong people don't cry. Or my personal favorite, a lady does not curse. Or you have to be always on top. What top? Why you have to be there? Or you have to get married by 30. Who's 30? These rules just don't make any sense, but some people blindly follow them without making any sense. Please note that not all the rules and guidelines are introjections. They are only introjections when a person does not understand why he or she uses certain rules and blindly follows them. Projection is a defense mechanism that takes place during the phase of awareness. As a result of projection, a person assigns internal processes, feelings, or desires to the environment. Usually it's something unpleasant or something a person does not want to be responsible for. For example, a woman sexually desires her plumber, but due to her strong religious beliefs, unable to express this desire, so she believes and tells everyone that the plumber was flirting with her and tried to seduce her. Or another example, liars always think that everyone lies. Cheaters always think that everyone cheats. Or needy people always call somebody else needy. And so on. Well, you got the idea. The next defense mechanism is retroflexion, and it takes place on the phase of mobilization. Retroflexion literally means turning back on yourself. A person does to himself what he would like to do to others or what he would like to receive from the environment. During the retroflexion process, a person makes an action towards satisfaction, but the action never reaches the target because it forwards not to the environment but back at the person. For example, instead of attacking someone, a person could punch his own hand. Or instead of touching someone, he could stroke himself on the head. Or instead of asking for help, he could try to handle things on his own. Inner dialogues are often products of retroflexion, where a person tries to communicate something internally, what he would really like to say to the environment. The next defense mechanism that takes place on the action phase of the cycle, and it's called deflection. Deflection manifests itself as a deviation from direct contact with a person or a problem. This happens in order to relieve tension or diffuse difficult or uncomfortable situations. Deflector is usually ignoring, turning away, or blocking emotional triggers. For example, a person could deflect from his feelings or impulses by endless talking, laughing when it is inappropriate, changing the subject when an unpleasant issue comes up, pretending not to hear or see something, misunderstanding or redefining what has been said or done. Another example is a guy tolerates his obnoxious boss all day and then comes home and takes this frustration out to his wife. That makes him feel a little better, but he never reaches full release because the frustration was directed to the wrong address. Reflection is another defense mechanism that takes place in the phase of action but more towards the end of the phase. Reflection is the opposite of retroflexion, and the person with reflection defense mechanism does to others what he would want for himself. For example, a person who wants to receive attention and affection does it to others with the hope to receive a symmetrical response. Or someone who needs help, instead of asking for it, actively helps others with the hope that they will do the same thing for him. Finally, we are getting to the full contact phase, where a person could just enjoy the process of satisfaction, but it could also be interrupted by a defense mechanism called egotism. This process, characterized by an excessive preoccupation with one's own thoughts, feelings, or behavior. It is as if the person gets trapped in his own thoughts, and it is an avoidance of real relational contact. Egotism holds a person's own boundaries on a lock that does not allow a person to fully experience the contact. Egotism is excessive control, fear of something new, lack of spontaneity, fear of losing, being rejected, or desire to do everything right and to be on top no matter what. For example, a guy during sexual activity starts to excessively control every move he makes. I have to put my hand this way. I shouldn't breathe this loud. Maybe I should stroke slower. I wonder if she likes it. I need to be more gracious. I wonder what I look like from the outside. Okay, maybe I should do it slower. No, maybe I should do it faster. And even if everything looks fine from the outside, a person can't really receive satisfaction or enjoy the process because all of his energy and awareness was forwarded to control. And finally, the last defense mechanism that takes place in the last phase of the cycle is devaluation. This is when a person devalues the result of his experience by ignoring the actual experience or his input into this experience. Devaluing prevents a person from facing his own feelings related to this experience. Something a person is not ready to face. It could be anxiety, shame, disappointment, helplessness, or even joy and happiness. In our attempts to get what we want in order to be happy, we have developed all kinds of defense mechanisms and manipulation tactics to compete for limited resources. To learn to find true happiness, we have to unlearn all the bad habits and cultivate a new path. And as always, thank you for watching.